Hello everybody and welcome. Today we're going to have a quick look at the power and importance of DNS. When you're using your computer, browsing the internet, checking emails, going to web pages, DNS is an integral part of what's actually happening behind the scenes. So if you accidentally open a dodgy email or click on a bad link on a website, it's going to use DNS to take you to that location. And once that bad location is found, then the virus is going to be downloaded onto your system. So we need to have some sort of protection, some sort of thing between us and the internet to protect us from these bad things. So DNS sinkholing or DNS blackholing is a really good way of doing this. Now sometimes it can cost a little bit of money. You can either have a local DNS with a list of all the badness on it. You can have a firewall, a next generation firewall that has these lists built in or subscribes to a public service or a paid service to get those lists of malicious information. So that when you're doing a DNS query, your local DNS server will check the list and say, no, this thing you're trying to download is a bad thing. I'm not going to actually download that thing. Or even better, if you've got a next generation firewall, the actual DNS query, as it traverses through the firewall, is intercepted by the firewall. It says, oh, I think you're going to a dodgy link. I'm going to actually kill that DNS query and reply on the external DNS server's behalf with a legitimate honeypot style address so that you're redirected to that URL. Now, a good thing about having a honeypot, of course, is it can be logged. So you can run reports on your firewall, especially in the enterprise, and actually get lists of reports of which users inside your corporation are actually visiting those bad sites. And I'm just going to very briefly talk about OpenDNS, Cisco Umbrella, CloudFlare, PiHole, just to name a few. There's many more other products out there, but they're the ones I use, so that's what I'm just going to focus on today. So this is my actual home setup. I'm using a Raspberry Pi with a PiHole software running, and that is full of lists for advertising. So already my local DNS queries are checked for advertising. And if they're not, then my local DNS server is forwarded on to OpenDNS, also known as Cisco Umbrella. Now the good thing about OpenDNS is it automatically looks for malicious, antivirus, anti-malware, many different types of bad things out there on the internet. And if you're looking for something that's good, it will return the good value. If it doesn't know, it will forward it on to a public DNS, the upstream DNS. But if it knows that what you're looking for is bad, then it will actually forward you on to their own internal captive portal or honeypot style IP address, so you can actually see on your screen, hey, look, the thing you're trying to go to, whatever you're trying to get to, is actually malicious, or it's a virus, or it's a ransomware, or it's a scamware, or it's any of these types of things. So this is really useful for protecting yourself against bad things out on the internet, having that DNS list running, looking for the malware, looking for all those sorts of things. So let's have a bit of a live demo now. So here we have the command prompt running, and we're going to use NSLOOKUP, a very useful tool for doing DNS type queries. Now to start with, I'm going to use everyone's favorite DNS server, Google's DNS server, because everyone raves about how awesome it is. So if I go to a known bad website, then it's going to actually, oh, okay, DNS can't find this one. So this one, that record might be a bit stale. But let's have a look at something that isn't necessarily bad, but could be considered to be a bit questionable. So Google's DNS has returned the real address of this URL. I've got another questionable IP address here to look at. Sorry. Another questionable URL to look at. And notice here that this has actually found this URL. So this URL is in the lists of malware. I had to do a bit of research to find it. And when I do a Google search, I actually get the real address. Thankfully, there's There's some test stuff as well. So here's a test. Sorry, let's try it again. This is a really good test URL. This wicar.org website is help you test out antiviruses, and this returns its real address. And last but not least, just as an example, I've also got another known antivirus, known spamware, scareware type URL. So this is all using Google's DNS. Now I want you to introduce, everyone says that Google's DNS is really awesome, but I want to introduce you to CloudFlare. Now CloudFlare are fairly new on the market for DNS distribution, and they claim to be the fastest because they have distribution all over the world. So you may find these actually a little bit faster response times than say Google DNSs, which sometimes are a little bit slow response. Okay, so the first one, can't find that, same as Google, so no surprise there. Our questionable website still gives us the real address. Let's look at, no, my cut and paste buffer is letting me down today. This is still the same address as the other shenanigans from before. We'll go to the malware test website, and that's going to return a same address. Oh, this time IPv6. Not sure why. Didn't do that when I was testing earlier on this afternoon, but never mind. And last but not least, this one. Now, the reason why I mentioned Cloudflare is because they actually have a system in place where they've got multiple DNS servers. So 1.1.1 is their public server. So the Google DNS server and the Cloudflare server, these are public DNS servers that will resolve anything you ask of it. Anything you ask. But they also have some secondary DNS servers which have this anti-malware, anti-spyware, anti-things all built in. So if we change now to one of their servers that is set to block viruses and malware, and oh, look at that. It's returned all zero. So it's actually found this bad URL in its list of shenanigans, and it said that no, I'm not going to actually return that IP address to you. That's oh, now I've looked at a adult website. Same thing again. It's just returned all zeros. So if you were using these DNS servers as your for some reason this one gets through. I'm not sure why. That's an interesting one. But if you're using these DNS servers as your DNS lookup, there we go again. It's actually stopping the traffic. So if you had a virus, or if you had a piece of ransomware or malware or some sort of other thing that was actually trying to get to one of these URLs, then your actual DNS would stop it because this DNS would return all zeros. Now that's all well and good, but the problem with returning all zeros is that it actually doesn't go anywhere. So it doesn't leave your computer because it's just like a broken TCP session. Whereas I'm a big fan of OpenDNS, also recently purchased by Cisco under the branding of Umbrella. So when we do exactly the same checks now using the the OpenDNS standards, they actually return a valid address. And the reason why this is so important is because if we're doing some sort of logging or auditing, or we're going through a firewall, or we're doing whatever it is we're doing, the actual user traffic will actually traverse and try and get to this website. So Cisco Umbrella actually have a very useful just a very simple web page that says, hey, I think you're going somewhere bad and it's no good. Ironically enough though, they realize that this is a testing website and they've already whitelisted it, so it's not actually blocked by Umbrella. So they've actually, because they know it's a testing website, they want you to actually get to it, so they don't actually block it, which is a bit interesting. All right, last but not least, this one. So notice here that each time we get to a blocked website, we get almost the same address. So this goes through the firewall and says, hey, you've we can log that. We can see the traffic going to the Cisco Umbrella website, and we can run reports on it. So I can ask my firewall, hey, who inside my corporation has tried to go to this one IP address? And I can instantly see all the people who are inside my corporation who either got a virus or going to quote unquote questionable websites. So that was just a little brief demo, and I've tabulated the results here to show you. I just have to move my head out of the way because my head's blocking that one. But as you can see, Google's DNS and Cloudflare's default DNS, they're pure DNSs. You ask them for a virus, you get a virus. You ask them for something questionable, you get something questionable. You ask them for whatever it is that you're interested in, they will be truthful and honest and transparent and give you exactly what you want. However, if you use Cloudflare's, it returns all zeros. So it like breaks your session. Your PC physically can't get to that device. And that's great for stopping the traffic, but it's no good for logging or auditing. Whereas something like OpenDNS or Cisco Umbrella, look at those IPs that are all returned. They're all almost identical. They're just slightly different web pages to say, oh, you're looking for phishing, or oh, you're looking for malware, etc., etc. So it's a very interesting comparison. And to be perfectly honest with you, the Cloudflare DNS servers are extremely fast. However, I still can't recommend them over OpenDNS because of the fact that they return quad zeros. So you can't log it, you can't audit it, you can't discover the traffic flow because it's not actually going to a honeypot, it's just a broken connection. Whereas OpenDNS are a little bit slower because they're hosted outside Australia, but at least you can log it because you can see exactly where the traffic's going. Something else interesting I just want to mention is about spam. I've been getting a lot of spam lately, and some of it's been getting really creative. Like look at this one on the right. It's a pretty good picture and ad for Norton's, and when the spam filter is engaged, you can see that it's raw text. I mean, it's just going to some clearly not Norton's antivirus. And of course, I love this email. It's one of my favorite ones because what large corporation antivirus would name their product with alternating caps or zeros for O's? So this one pretty stood out. This one stood out to me as being pretty obvious. But some of the others like this one, look at this LinkedIn one. I mean, you can see the URL, it's got nothing to do with LinkedIn whatsoever, but yet the actual, if I was looking at this on my phone, for example, then that would come in. That looks completely like a legitimate LinkedIn webpage. Oh look, I've just won $500 gift card to Woolworths. Amazing, yeah, I need that $500 so I can go and do my shopping. Because this is the good thing about Outlook and the spam filter that I'm using anyway. And when it's in spam filter mode, it's just raw text, so you can see. I mean, it stands out, it's obvious it's a scam. But if you're looking at that on your phone or a tablet, or it didn't go in your spam filter, it would be, you'd think, oh, hooray, I've won $500 from Woolworths. So have a look at all of these links, all of these spam, everything going on about this. Notice that they're all fully qualified domain names. They're all using DNS. So if we can have some sort of DNS filter, something happening behind the scenes, understanding that these are bad URLs, these are bad domains, that's going to protect us. Now, just to keep me on track, I want to go on another tangent for another video, but a lot of these have, see how it's where it says WP content? A lot of people use WordPress for their websites and they don't secure them properly. So people just hijack it and upload random content into other people's legitimate websites. So yeah, so if you're running WordPress, make sure you tighten up the security, please. So yeah, this is there's some links to some useful things. I'll include these links in the description below. But OpenDNS, awesome. Cisco's bought OpenDNS. The good thing about the Cisco's product is that you can even package it as a piece of software on your laptop. So all the databases of all the shenanigan websites are stored locally on your system. Or you could use CloudFlare, and there's another couple of links about the ins and outs of CloudFlare and about their protecting you just against malware and protecting you against malware and, you know, adult content. And there's a lovely link for the Raspberry PiHole, and that blocks tens of thousands of different ads. So thank you very much for watching this short video. Just a reminder that My daughter's got some sweet merchandise, and that'll link to that in the description below as well. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you enjoy this content. Click the notification bell to be notified when I make a new video. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment with what you'd like me to make for my next video. Thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next one.